In today's video, we'll be taking a look at real footage of special operations snipers taking out several hostile fighters. But more than that, we will also be taking a look at the actual footage of the current world record longest sniper shot. There will be graphic combat footage and images throughout this video, so viewers' discretion is advised. And if you want to see the raw, unedited footage from this video, I'll have a link down in the description to my Patreon where you can watch the raw clips that were too graphic for YouTube. But with that being said, let's get right into it. Dallas Alexander was a sniper for the Canadian Special Operations Unit Joint Task Force 2, commonly referred to as JTF-2. JTF-2 is Canada's Tier 1 Special Operations Unit. It is the most secretive and skilled unit of the Canadian Forces. In 2017, Dallas Alexander was a part of a 4-man JTF-2 sniper team deployed in Iraq. Their primary objective for this deployment was to help the Iraqi security forces push into Mosul and clear ISIS out of the area. Unfortunately, the team had very strict rules and restrictions they had to follow for this deployment. And because of those restrictions, they weren't allowed to do anything other than long-range sniping and calling in airstrikes. As soon as the team landed in the area, they knew exactly where they wanted to set up shop. The Nineveh Hotel was a 9-story building with a perfect view of the east side of Mosul, which was where most of the fighting was taking place at the time. So the team got set up on the top floor of the hotel, and they spent over 50 days in the hotel studying the terrain and waiting for the Iraqi force to make their push. The team would spend a week or two in the hotel just waiting for the Iraqi forces to push up, but then they never would, so the team would go back to base to get resupplied and whatever. And then they get word that, hey, it's happening, the Iraqi forces are going to push up any day now. So the team would load up and head back to the hotel for another week or two, where the Iraqi forces would, for whatever reason, again, not push up at all. So then they'd have to go back to base, chill out for a little bit, get resupplied, and then again, they would hear that the Iraqi forces were going to push up, so they'd have to rush back to the hotel. They just kept going back and forth like this until they had spent a total of over 50 days inside the hotel. The team didn't know for sure when the Iraqis would make their push, but they had to be ready when the time came. And because of their rules and restrictions, they were unable to engage any targets until the battle had started. So the team spent a lot of time studying the terrain and listening to podcasts and just hanging out in the hotel. You can even see in the footage them wearing flip-flops and stuff in the hotel room because they just were there so much. The team had so much time studying the terrain that they had everything so dialed in to the point that they knew the exact distance of every building and what elevation to hold for each building. The team had given nicknames to every building and they all knew what the distance and elevation was for that building. So one of the spotters could just call out target at whatever building and the shooter would know exactly where he needed to aim to hit the target at that distance. Needless to say, when the fighting finally began, they were more than ready. Around this time, there was an ISIS fighter in the area who had been captured, and the team was briefed on one of the interviews done with the fighter, where he was bragging about doing terrible things to young girls. The man said that he had done these terrible things to over 200 young girls. He also bragged about the horrible human trafficking system ISIS was running in the area. And hearing all of this put a fire in Dallas and the team to take out as many ISIS fighters as they possibly could. The team now knew that every fighter they eliminated meant fewer young girls being assaulted. The Nineveh Hotel was over 2 miles away from Mosul, where the fighting was happening. So the team's objective wasn't really to eliminate a large amount of enemies, but rather to assist the Iraqis by controlling the movements of the enemy through effective suppressing fire. They also had the perfect view to call in airstrikes on the enemy. But now, with the team being highly motivated to eliminate as many ISIS fighters as possible, they came up with an absolutely genius idea. The team started to corral large amounts of enemies into small buildings and then pinning them down and calling in an airstrike. The team would fire off rounds at groups of enemy fighters, forcing them to take cover inside a building, and then they would drop a bomb on that building, taking out large groups of ISIS fighters at once. On the morning of the second day of the battle, the team pinned down a group of fighters inside a small building and then called in an airstrike. But when the bomb hit the building, there was no explosion. It was a dud. But then one of the fighters ran outside the building and put his rifle and vest on the floor. And then he bent over and started messing with something on his vest, which gave the team all the time they needed. The spotters quickly gave the location and the windage, and then both snipers fired simultaneously. It took just under 10 seconds for the bullets to reach their targets, but one of the two rounds dropped the ISIS fighter, making the world record shot at a total distance of 3,540 meters. To put that in perspective, the previous record was 2,400 meters. The team knew exactly how far away the targets were that they were shooting at, and they were really hoping to set the world record on this deployment. But immediately after they finished celebrating after taking out that target, they spotted 4 ISIS fighters standing still, lined up perfectly for the team on the building next door. So once again, the spotters called out the windage and both snipers sent it. All 4 fighters dropped to the floor. The team thought they just took out 4 fighters at once. But just a few moments later, unfortunately, all 4 fighters got up and ran for cover. The round must have just scared them real good. Over the next few days, word quickly got out about them setting the new world record, and it was all over the news, which gave away their position, so unfortunately they had to quickly ditch the hotel. Not only did the team blow the previous world record out of the water, but they believe they actually broke that previous world record at least 5 times that day, which is crazy. If you guys want to see the raw, unedited combat footage from this video, I'll have a link down in the description below where you can see all of the clips that were too graphic for YouTube's community guidelines. And if you thought this story was absolutely insane, you have got to hear this next one popping up on screen right here. But thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will see you all in the next one.